Around the NFL podcast is not young anymore.
That's for sure. From the Chris Wessling podcast studio, it's Around the NFL Wednesday edition. Dan Hanzus here with some heroes. Marc Sessler, Gregg Rosenthal. I mean, the pickup boys of the news and the intensity of the news. We've gone 0 to about 660 here in our league.
Dan and I had a chance to go out and have a beer yesterday, and in the course of about an hour, 17 stories broke while we were watching the crawl on the television in the corner of the room.
And we're going to get to all of them. Julio Jones has new home, the official start of the Trey Lance era. Michael Thomas is on the field, the saga of Shaq Leonard. Excited about that. But first, right off the bat, and this tells you how things have changed, how things have picked up. We have no time for any more just messing around. You know, everyone knows.
It's like, hey, how was your weekend? Well,
yeah.
the summer, and
we don't need any of that.
House stuff.
I was in Japan.
you know, insiders respect insiders, okay? And we know what I've done in my career. I broke the Tom Brady stolen jersey story, amongst many things. And that's life as the ATN Media Insider.
ATN Media Insider. Dan Hanzus. For the truth, go to the Zeus.
So when I see someone else that's thriving in this particular sector of sports media, I just respect it. And that's why we're going to bring on right now from Philadelphia Eagles training camp, Ian Rapoport, who had what I like to call this is, again, insider, respect the insider, maximum scoopage. This Kyler Murray story, which is just tremendous, and we're going to get into it and also whatever else is going on with Ian as he travels the Northeast at camps. Ian, what's up, buddy? How are you?
Because this isn't real TV, can I just sit back like this, or do I need to sit
No,
up
you're
and
good.
act like
You're
I'm
good. It's going to be on YouTube, but that's fine.
The look on Ian's face suggests
That's
that the
awesome.
respect may not go back to you, Dan, to equal amounts.
Well, that's resting Ian face. You have to remember.
Well, you should have seen my face while he was talking.
Right. It was not resting Ian face.
So let's get into it right now, buddy. The Kyler story is great because we hear the big contract and finally 5 years, $230.5 million, and you're thinking, all right, this story is over. But then we learn via rap sheet that there's a clause in there, an independent study clause, an addendum that basically asks Kyler Murray to work harder, to study harder, to be more focused on the job. Ian, like we like learning how the sausage is made when it comes to sports media. How did this come about, and how did it all play out for you here?
All right, so, I know a lot of people are kind of wondering, and I was on the Dan Patrick show earlier, and they said, well, who benefits from this being out? And I'm like, news doesn't really work like that. I guess maybe it does sometimes, but not as much as people think. This was sort of really as simple as I knew there was a baseball clause in Kyler Murray's contract. So as soon as he signs it, it gets put into the NFLPA database and the NFL database. So if you have the right sources, and honestly, it's not that hard, you can get it. So you say, hey, Kyler's signed contract, let me get a copy of it. And you could take a look at it, and I wanted to see the baseball clause because there is one, is guaranteed money voids if he plays organized baseball for any team. Okay, so that's what I was looking for. And then I saw this other thing. And I'm like, I had to call, and I actually called agent Eric Burkhardt, who did the deal with Kyler, or sort of for Kyler Murray, to make sure this was right. An independent study clause, which essentially guarantees that he studies 4 hours a week by himself, at home or whatever, studying the tablet, which, teams can track, to make sure that he's doing his homework. And if he doesn't, his guaranteed money voids. And it is true. It is real. He agreed to it. It was important to owner Michael Bidwill that if they made the commitment to him monetarily, he also, on paper, makes the commitment to them. It's just, I've never seen it before. I just haven't.
Was he pissed, the agent? Because I immediately thought when this got out there that if I'm Kyler Murray, I'm upset. If I'm the agent, I agreed to the terms, and maybe you figure it's going to get out somehow. But if I'm the team, I'm upset too, because I don't know if you thought this when you put the story out, but I feel like this story is going to follow Kyler Murray for a long time. It's not going to be one of those 2 or 3 days stories. It's going to be something people bring up. Let's say if the Cardinals don't have a playoff win in 2 years, it's still going to be a topic.
I agree with you. This is, every time he struggles, every time he misreads the coverage, and it's going to happen to everyone, it's going to be a thing. And I don't think anybody looks good in this, honestly. It's
right,
not
that's
great
what I
for
mean.
Kyler.
Were they upset? Were they upset at you?
No, because it's going to come out. I mean, and that's what, there's stories I find out all the time where, like, people will be like, oh, like, do you have to say this? And a lot of times the answer is the same. If it's not me, it's going to be someone else. You put something in a contract, one of the most high-profile contracts in the NFL, it's coming out.
Yeah.
You're going to find out. So it's either me or it's someone else. So I don't think they were, I don't know, at least they didn't say they were angry at me. It was more like, look, the team went to a place that they weren't previously planning to go to money-wise. So Kyler got the money he wanted. He got the average. He got the guarantee. He got all of that. The team had to get there. So as part of the give and take, the player and the agent had to agree to stuff. They really didn't want in there either. But one thing that Burkhardt was saying was that Kyler studies this much anyway, so really who cares? And if that is true, then yes, who cares, but it just looks bad.
But if that's true, because, Kyler last year had a quote on record saying, I'm not one of those guys that's going to sit there and kill myself watching film. And we heard there were whispers about this.
Probably shouldn't have said that.
No, he probably shouldn't have. But the contract also has a specific clause about video games, which we've heard that's been an issue with Kyler Murray as well. Cliff Kingsbury says this isn't an issue for him. He had nothing to do with this being in the contract. And you mentioned that the owner did. How would the owner know that this is an issue? I mean, he's in the building to some degree, but it must have bubbled up from coaching, from someone inside the organization saying, this is a problem with Kyler Murray. He's not doing the work, whether the agent says he is or not. How did it all percolate into such a distinct issue into the contract over the past couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, most important position, the owner is involved. I think it makes sense that if there were questions that the owner would know. And, I think the other thing is this is not my money, and it's not really the Cardinals' money. It's the owner's money. So if he's going to give this much money, he wants something for himself to say, these are some sort of safeguards. Does it make sense to me? Like, I don't know, but it's not my money, right? So he basically, in his mind, is safeguarding his money by making sure that Kyler is doing the studying he wants. You mentioned the video games. I was on TA with Mike Yam a couple days ago, and I mentioned the video game part of it where he has to be paying attention, can't be playing video games. And he goes, well, Kyler's a gamer. And I'm like, well, yes, but that just means he's good at it. Like, it still means he's just playing video games like the rest of us.
Right, but how can they, that's why it's an embarrassing clause, because how can they track this anyways? They're saying that he has to do the 4 hours, which, by the way, is like a pretty low bar here. 4 hours over the course of a week is
we watch 4 hours of film
like
a week.
I would love to know like Tom Brady's reaction to this.
Right, it's a low bar, but my point is the reason why
I've been at two places the last 2 days, and this contract has come up from multiple people, coaches, GMs, players. Like one of the Eagles coaches here was like, Jalen might do that in a day.
Right, but it's embarrassing, but it's also
I'm not sure he was.
You can't track it. That's why it's stupid, because it's making the Cardinals look like kind of a Mickey Mouse operation. Because even by putting this in there, it's embarrassing him. But you also couldn't follow up on it. He could absolutely be doing something else while he has the iPad on and tracking it.
Yeah,
what
is that?
They don't have someone at his house with a camera.
I thought they do track. They can track those tablets.
But they were saying that he can't be doing it while watching TV and while gaming. So he could easily just have two things on at once.
Well, that's
right,
why,
it's all bad.
That's why it all feels so petty.
Right, that's what I mean.
I mean, and it does feel like, if you're from the outside, it feels like the Cardinals, they're telling everyone, we're a little conflicted about this contract. Like we're pretty sure he's the guy, and we know he can be special, but we also have some doubts, so we're going to throw this language in the deal. And even though we can't really enforce what we're saying we want to enforce, it was important to us that it was in the writing so we could potentially come back and use that if this whole thing goes to hell. It's just sloppy, and it gets back to this Cardinals situation, Ian, that sometimes you wonder how the ship is being run over there.
So let me just counter that, and I'm not sort of arguing with you, but let me offer a counterpoint. That's okay. It's okay. If they aren't 100% on board with paying them all that money and they wanted to create themselves some outs, that is okay. Because reality is, if Kyle, I don't know, maybe he's going to end up studying more than he would. Maybe it is necessary. maybe it is something that benefits them, and they say the only way we're going to get our money's worth is if this guy starts studying like a lot of the other quarterbacks. That is okay. Does it look bad? Yes, it looks ridiculous. But maybe this plays out, and if they are unsure but sort of needed to pay him because that's where we are in this world and he wanted a contract, like, you know, there is a compromise, and this was a way they could do it and feel okay with it. I know it looks ridiculous, but I also think that's okay.
Has anyone come to you since this story broke and said, by the way, this has been in another quarterback's contract? Is this the first time this has ever happened, to your knowledge?
Yes, first time it has ever happened. I haven't looked at every contract. I've thought about it. I cannot remember it in any other contract.
And can you imagine if things do go sideways and the relationship crumbles between the team and the quarterback, and they actually tried to recoup the salary and try to use this?
That's what I mean. They can't
it is
do
an
it. They
atomic
can't
bomb.
do it because he can just leave that Game Pass rolling. You know, he'll put up the old condensed version of 49ers Seahawks, and he's loving it.
Right, with these contracts, like, they tell you so much about what was happening behind the scenes. So obviously, Ian, it feels like this has been something they've been concerned about for a long time. And now that it's literally in the contract, it's all laid bare for the rest of us. But it's very unusual that was not a private conversation. It was something they felt compelled to make a legal part of a document.
Well, that's the crazy thing to me is, like, if you put in a contract, that thing's getting out. That is public.
Good. That's a good point.
They thought about that, and they weighed the options, and they're like, we want that in the contract. It's crazy.
Jay Cutler is somewhere right now being like, oh, I lucked out. Like, glad this wasn't around when I was playing.
Oh, man. Well, what about
Why Cutler got to catch
I don't
a
know.
stray
I
there?
just had to come up with someone, and he was the first one that
What about
came to mind.
Jamarcus Russell?
Okay, yeah.
He had the famous CD-ROM with nothing on it.
that was a great story.
Ian, you're at Eagles camp today. You were at Jets camp yesterday. Anything saucy to report from either location?
This interview was held up because you were speaking with Howie Roseman.
Literally. Oh, Ian's running a little late. He's speaking with the GM of the Eagles.
Well, he's an insider.
That is true. Yes, that is true. So let's see. Jets. Hanzus, you kind of stole my thunder a little bit. I got to be honest.
What? What'd I do?
You mentioned my little Aaron Rodgers, Zach Wilson nugget I saw.
Oh, did I?
What was it?
I thought that was already out there, my friend.
The listeners have no idea what you're talking about. Neither do I.
Oh, no. Did I? Oh.
You did.
I did.
Hanzus, explain what happened.
Fill us in.
Explain yourself.
Right. So we texted with Ian, checked in about the Kyler story, and Ian's like, I'm at Jets camp. And we were talking a little bit, Zach Wilson, got to make it happen. And Ian, I'll tee you up. Ian gave me a nugget about Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson that I thought was already out there, and you were just telling me. And then I was on a Jets podcast.
Which it wasn't, and then Hanzus put out there. But
I apologize. I was on the Badlands podcast, which is a Jets podcast, and I mentioned that, and I should have checked that.
That's insider stealing from insider. I don't think
Greg
you can
might need to be
that.
the peacemaker now. This is look where we're at now. Apologies, Ian.
So here's the story. So I was at Jets, and I didn't quite realize how maniacal Zach Wilson is as a worker. I mean, I knew he likes football a lot. Like, he's a real football junkie. Like, he was at that tight ends camp thingy they did and traveled around the country this summer to basically throw with his receivers. Like, he loves football. And he studies all the time. And so there's a story I was told. And, like, I even think maybe even a little, like, too much. Like, it might be, like, overkill. Like, he works like crazy. And so Aaron Rodgers called him to check on him last season, 9 o'clock on a Friday, and Rodgers is like, what are you doing? Like, are you at the facility? He's like, yeah. He's like, are you in the tape room right now? He's like, yeah. He's like, dude, go home. And that was sort of instructive because, like, you need to have some, like, mental peace as a player, but also he does work incredibly hard.
I mean, do the Jets need to put in his contract, maybe, can you reduce the film watching to some degree to be a more balanced individual?
That literally is why I heard this story, because that was the joke that was being made, literally.
Right, because it didn't help too much.
Right. In my appearance on the Badlands podcast, the fact that I cited you directly, at least I didn't put it out there as my reporting, does that help at all?
No.
Yeah.
I like the
Making
idea.
yourself feel bad.
I like the idea of Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson as close buddies. I feel like they have some strange relationship things going on this offseason. Like they could get into a lot of trouble. Before
What
we
do
let
you
you
mean,
go,
Greg?
I'm just both of them had different
do you mean?
stories about their off-field paramours.
I'm not familiar.
Separate adventures.
What do you
Google
mean?
it. Quickly before we let you go, you reported on Julio Jones. He's making $6 million base salary. Yeah, I'm just curious, is that guaranteed? I just saw that salary. I actually thought it was surprisingly high, and it made me wonder, like, is he a lock to make the team? Because if he doesn't have a great camp and he's due to make $6 million, they might just kind of be like, sorry, Julio, it's not going to work out.
I don't know is the answer.
Okay.
I will find out because it's in a contract, so I'll find out. My assumption is
He'll find out if
there's
it's
a
in the
big-
contract.
Oh, yeah. There's a big bulk of that in signing bonus, I would assume.
Okay.
So my guess is a lot of it's guaranteed. A lot of times what happens is there's per game roster bonuses, basically like how much you get paid based on if you're healthy per game, included in the base salary. So there might be some of that in there. But it was a little more than I expected. I would say that is definitely the case for me as well.
All right. Ian, thank you for your time. By the way, you're wearing the NFL Network polo. They don't even send us them. That's an issue, but I'm not going to dwell on that. Well, here's the thing. I want to say
why would
something.
they?
You
We're
are
part of
someone.
the team.
You're someone that has some sway in the company, obviously, as the insider. And don't wear the polo when you're from your personal setup in
Yeah,
your
that's
home.
true. It doesn't
like
look
when you're
right.
on TA or whatever, and it's you, Garofolo, and Pelissero, and you're all wearing the matching polos in your basements. It's just kind of a weird look. I'd push back on that. That's just a suggestion.
I graciously agreed to come on to your podcast and give you some knowledge and also have some witty banter. And you
Right.
make fun of my polo in the house.
He's
look?
just giving you some
Wait a
You know
advice.
how
second.
great
It's
it is
you
when
can't-
Dave Schott calls me and is like, "You don't have to wear a tie." It's amazing.
Do you wear pants from the home set? No one would know. What's I mean, I'm sure you're wearing something down there, but is it a full pants situation? No, currently, I'm sure.
I
but
thought we
from
could
home.
get through an entire conversation without Mark asking about a man's lower half being exposed, but we couldn't do it.
Well, it
Here
came
we
up
are.
naturally.
I wear shorts or jeans. So whenever I go to an event and have to wear the suit pants, I'm always like, "This is weird."
Sure.
Of course, I don't have a belt with my suit pants, so it does feel a little bit like sweatpants.
Humble brag.
All right, Ian, I'm sorry about the Rogers scoopage there. We're going to work that out privately. Thank you for joining us. Have a nice time at Eagles camp.
I will. Always happy to go on with you guys. Thank you very much for asking. Hanzus, don't ever text me again.
Oh, no, not another. All right, there he
We're
goes.
down to just Mark.
Down to Marc Sessler. Thank you, buddy. All right, there he goes. Rap sheet. Yeah. Does this feel? I don't know. Does this feel doomed? This whole marriage, or ultimately, like Kyler and the Cardinals?
Oh, I thought you meant us in Rap Sheet.
No, I feel okay with the status of that relationship. Doesn't this feel like like we'll look back at this in 5 years and be like, from the very beginning, we knew it was over.
I just feel the whole concept that 5
Save
years
that.
from now, Kyler Murray and Cliff Kingsbury and Steve Keim are all going to be there as their contract suggests. It does feel shaky to me. This feels like an immature, sort of strange football team and organization in general right now.
Well, right. The Kyler contract thing is silly. The deal itself made sense. The contracts that bothered me this offseason were re-signing Steve Keim and Cliff Kingsbury for 5 years on top of the year they already had. So they have a 6-year contract. They're not bidding against anyone. That they made as big a commitment in an organization that felt like a little dysfunctional for no reason. And my guess would be Kyler outlasts those two guys, but we'll see.
Interesting. All right.
Do I not get any credibility as an insider for unearthing the fact that, people have watched Ian Rapoport on television for
Yes.
years, and I've discerned and through my questioning what he wears on the lower half of his body. You're thinking he's wearing suit pants, it's shorts, or jeans.
That's a media insider thing. It's kind of Mark's beat, though. Men's bodies.
Men's nudity.
It's men's bodies, clothes.
Well, not
in
nudity.
general.
He's actually wearing garments that are shorts or jeans.
Well, yeah, I would have to call it. Yeah, it was a good point.
Do I get a large soundbite with the dolphin squealing and all this
we'll
other
give you a
business?
soundbite.
You actually suggested we're doing a NFL Total Access hit that's going to air Wednesday and Thursday. People should check out Total Access. You suggested for one of the hits we should do it on your upper body, which I like. What were going to be some of your takes for that hit?
Well, I don't know. I think Total Access, for those that have
Are we
watched
still
it.
on the air?
The vibe of that would be a good segment for that. That really fits what Total Access is trying to achieve.
That came out of nowhere, though, the upper body. I liked it. It was a good joke.
A lot to explore.
All right, we have so much to get to, guys. We got to keep moving here. We're going to take a break. Then we're going to get everyone caught up with the news. The NFL is flying right now. We are back at it. So let's get caught up after the break.
That's a good point you made, Mark. Yeah, that's a great point, Mark. That's a
there
good
you
point,
go, Mark.
Feel validated, seen.
All right, welcome back. Let's hit the news.
I got a question for you guys. Who would win in a fight, a grizzly bear or a silverback gorilla? So I'm pretty sure a grizzly bear is actually way bigger, and it has daggers for hands. So, yeah, I'm going to go with the grizzly bear, too. So anyone that said silverback, can you leave, please?
49ers All-Pro tight end George Kittle, an outspoken man. One of those dudes. One of those guys. You know those guys. You know, they're affable, nice. Sometimes you got to go along with his stuff a little bit, but everything he means well, and he's a nice guy. So
wow, that's damning with faint praise. I think he's like a WWE character, and you got to try out different bits, and some fly,
right.
Some don't. The bear thing.
I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying I don't really want to have that conversation. But since he's such a nice guy, I'll indulge him, and we'll be like, oh, well, the gorilla, it's got
he's tugging you along a little.
Incredible strength, and it's a very smart. It's a primate. I'm banking on the gorilla, but I don't really need to talk.
Former
about
friend
this.
of the show. I mean, a friend of the show has been on with us during Super Bowl week. Let's not disenfranchise our status with another NFL player.
Love him as a player. Love the personality. I'm just saying sometimes you got to go along with the guy.
No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
there's an energy.
You especially.
To that.
I feel like you would.
What?
As if
you have to go along with me?
No, I'm saying if someone like set you up like that, you would not want to have that conversation.
Well, it's laborious. It's like I know this is going to take an extra 2 or 3 minutes.
Right, and he felt the bit dying halfway through and didn't have the confidence to kind of see it all the way. It was tough.
Justin Graver did not have the confidence to see it all the way through with Julio Jones last year. You know, Titans fans, they really believed that he would be the guy that would be that big 1-2 punch. Didn't work out. Jones became a free agent this offseason, sat on the, waiting line, as it were, waiting for a gig, and now he's got one. And it's a good one because Julio Jones, the future Hall of Famer, signs a 1-year contract with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So we shall see what Julio Jones at this stage of his career has left. He's dealt with a lot of nagging injuries now, Mark, for several years. But he's playing with Tom Brady, and that's never a bad thing.
If he went anywhere else, I would almost not even bat an eye. I think the Bucs thing, just because it is Brady, something about tells me you're going to get this sort of season from Julio. He's missed 14 games over the last 2 years. Let's say he stays healthy. I kind of love the signing. I do question, though, knowing what we know about his durability, what happened with him last year, who has a better season, Russell Gage or Julio Jones for the Bucs?
Oh, Russell Gage.
I think so too.
I
would
follow
say the money. I mean, look who got the big early free agent contract that they're putting to, and then Julio Jones, who gets $6 million, which, as I mentioned, the rap sheet was more than I expected. I think he's going to have a totally solid month here. Like if he's missing half of training camp because he has hamstring issues, which has bothered him and kept him out of practice mostly for 3 or 4 years, I don't know if he even goes into the season, but it's worth a shot.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Chris Godwin questionable to start the season. Mike Evans is a rock, obviously, but Gronk is out the door. So they need somebody to step up, I think, and he could be that guy. It's just, yes, I think you got to temper expectations. I think Gage is the easy answer for me as well because even if he does get through this training camp in the preseason, not that he'll probably play in the preseason even if he was healthy, but you got to set his over-under of games played at this point, like 8.5 or something. That's the nature of the beast with Julio Jones at this stage. But
his last 2 games he played, he went 5 for 58 and a touchdown and 6 for 62 in a game where they couldn't get much going offensively. Like, he could be fine. This tells me, though, that Tom Brady, and there's been reports about this, so I'm not just speaking out of school, that like he wasn't totally in love with Tyler Johnson and Jalen Darden and Cyril Grayson and Perriman and Scotty Miller. Like he hasn't really seen those guys step up.
Well, I feel like we knew that during the playoffs last year,
right,
too.
He wanted Julio. There is a an outcome here where this turns into a great veteran signing, that he's a nice role player for them. I would like to see that. If only to no, actually I feel bad for Falcons fans. Falcons fans are hating this one. Just like to see him on the rival Bucs, to see him with Tom Brady. Julio Jones, who would have gone down in history as one of the best 10 catches, I would say, in Super Bowl history, leading the Falcons to a victory on that sideline grab over Stephon Gilmore that should have set up the game-winning points for Atlanta midway through the fourth quarter until Ryan took that sack that took him out. Like that, he would have gone down. That would have been his moment forever, and now it's just sort of like a footnote because of Tom Brady.
And no player in the history of the NFL
Why
has
bring
more...
that up?
No,
because I follow people on Twitter. That was their first reaction.
You just said you stopped yourself because you didn't want to rag on Falcons fans, and then you immediately drive it to 28-3.
Well, that is the Gregg experience.
The duality of man.
The duality of Gregg.
Me as a man.
We've had the fish tank, right? We had, what else did we have?
The Raven's Nest.
The Raven's Nest. I want to take us in 2022 to the Bear Cave. Not a lot of people are going to the Bear Cave. Usually we like to go places where people don't go. Nobody's going to the Bear Cave right now. So we, this year, will occasionally walk gingerly into the darkness of the Bear Cave.
George Kittle's not going there.
I mean, he's a nice guy.
He seems nice.
But I just don't need to have the conversation.
Correct.
In the Bear Cave, some good news. Roquan Smith is not – it's not so contentious that he's not even in the building. He's in the building, but it's your classic hold-in. Bears coach Matt Eberflus. Did you know that? Did you know that Matt Eberflus is the head coach of the Bears now?
Sure.
Did you remember that?
I did, yes.
That's why we're in the Bear Cave.
Why would that surprise you?
Well, some people might not be following the Bears very closely in this moment in time.
That's sort of bird's eye view following the Bears, just knowing the coach's name.
Right. Listen, there are people out there that are listening that were like, oh.
Yeah. Now, if you didn't know that their offensive coordinator, and remember, Eberflus is a defensive guy, so this offensive coordinator has a lot of responsibility with Justin Fields. If you didn't know it was Luke Getsy.
I mean, this is why we're in the Bear Cave.
Former Packers assistant, then that is more understandable. Eberflus, you got to know.
There's information just flying around the Bear Cave right now. Anyway, Roquan Smith has been put on the PUP list, but he is still looking for the contract. He's set to make nearly $10 million in the fifth and final year of his rookie deal, but maybe you could take that as a sign of good news. How about Robert Quinn, the veteran pass rusher, coming off a big year with Chicago? There's been questions about whether he is part of the team's future. He had not reported to camp, but now he has. He reported to training camp. He had skipped mandatory minicamp in June, and there had been some thoughts that the veteran could be moved because Chicago is not contending. Well, he does not expect to be traded, he said today, Wednesday. We'll see if that plays out. True. Did you know this in the Bear Cave? 18.5 sacks last year for Robert Quinn.
I did. In the 3 previous seasons, he had an equal 18.5, so he had a standout year. And, I mean, if you're Matt Eberflus...
This is a very informational cave.
It is. You lost Khalil Mack, obviously. Akeem Hicks out the door. I mean, if you're Matt Eberflus, I get that the Bears are rebuilding, and there must be some organizational buy-in that it's going to take a couple years. But on offense, it feels sort of super gloomy. But he's a defensive coach, and he's coming there to put his stamp on it. He's got a new scheme. You need Robert Quinn. You need Roquan Smith. So there has to be some buy-in in the building. We are getting Roquan Smith a new deal, and it better happen sooner than later.
Right, the whole he wasn't going to show up didn't last too long. It's a classic hold-in.
Classic.
I'm not going to say
It only existed for 3 years or so, so it's not, we're already in classic territory.
Now, I think it's like one of those terms, hold-in, that would have gained popularity eventually anyways.
Like IR Boomerang.
Right. But I got to say, among the national NFL media, I really kick-started Holden. Started saying it 3 years ago. Started repeating it over and over. Now it's everywhere. There is, I'm not saying.
Well, don't dance around it. Come out and say it. Say it's you.
It was me.
Well, we could do a deeper linguistic study on that, but that's fine.
Let's leave the Bear Cave, but it won't be the last time. We're gonna visit the Bear Cave periodically. Everyone else stays away from the cave right now. They're not even going to the forest. We will duck in occasionally. But let's head somewhere else in the NFC North. Little Packers news. Packers president and CEO Mark Murphy is happy to hand out extensions for general manager Brian Gutekunst and head coach Matt LaFleur. These two have not gotten over the hump to Lombardi glory together, but what else can he ask for? The Packers are year in and year out a true Super Bowl contender. LaFleur, statistically, numbers-wise, has been one of the most successful head coaches ever. in 3 seasons, 3 NFC North titles, 39-10 record. Packers are in good hands, especially with Aaron Rodgers there, so they make sure to get these guys pen to paper with a new extension for years to come. I'm not sure what is the how many years was
They didn't say.
All right, well,
I don't know what
multiple
the whole
years.
What is the whole thing with let's not reveal all the details of coaching and GM contracts. Like no one was sure, as we talked about with Jane last episode, whether Mike McCarthy had an extra year on his contract or not. This should just be public. Make it public.
Sometimes I think it's
don't know
because
how they get away with that.
If it goes south, the owner is stuck paying Coach X like 4 more years, and they probably don't want the number attached to
players.
that.
Like,
well, that's true.
Yeah.
It's fine. Just let us know. I mean, this is
it's
a
not
no-brainer.
my idea. I also would want the information, Greg.
Their roster looks amazing. I think their defensive roster. Goody has really focused on defense quite a bit as a GM, and I think he's done a nice job with it. I think this is a year it should pay off.
Matt LaFleur has come a long way since we were in your garage, and your dad, Keith Hanzus, called him a little boy with a beard.
He called him a bearded boy, right?
I thought it was a little boy with a beard.
He's like a boy with the beard.
Yeah, maybe it was just boy with a beard, but yeah. He was not wrong back then, but now he's not a boy.
Packers are still in old Zeuser tugboat timeout after their playoff performance. I mean, they're in tugboat timeout still, and they're going to be probably till next January. But I will not. You'd be stupid to not respect what they've built organizationally.
What are you gonna do when we're talking Packers every week?
I won't be over the moon. Okay, because they're in tugboat timeout.
But timeout normally would be you just ignore them. You don't even
Let's shoot them into the sun.
Yeah, I can't do that because I'm hosting the
You're
podcast.
Professional,
but I'm not going to be over the moon, and that's gonna I have to think about that with power rankings too. I need to understand what happened in January. It should not be forgotten. The size of the egg that was laid by the Packers and what that means organizationally.
How is that different than every other January? I've been saying this for as long as we've been getting together. Every January an egg is laid.
Well, I'm just saying that
clockwork.
In particular, that was a pretty grisly egg.
It was a horrible egg.
That was for the team.
But the Niners team allowed the Cowboys to do that. They pushed the Cowboys into the same spot previously. That was a lot of it had to do with the Niners operating as a funky operation. I just remember Greg saying it
was too cold for the Packers, and that's why they lost. And I was just remembering that's one of the strangest comments anyone's ever made.
I don't remember that. I think I was saying that, yeah, the weather hurts their passing attack. That happens every year. It's an egg where, there's a little chickadee inside, and then you open it, and no, actually the chickadee is bleeding and dead.
Yeah, gross. They've had
like many, a bloody egg.
To your point, since we've been here, Mark, since 2010, they won the Super Bowl the first year we were here. There have been many eggs since, but that was the first one where it was like, man, these guys are tight. These guys are afraid of the moment. These guys are better. It's Jimmy Garoppolo. Listen, I'm gonna move on, but they're in tugboat timeout.
It was a bad egg.
In other news, Michael Thomas is practicing. That is big news for the New Orleans Saints, who are hoping their wide receiver can return to. Listen, he was on a Canton path when before that ankle gave out in Week 1 of the 2020 season. So getting him off the PUP list, getting him on the practice field this early in training camp, it's just a great sign, Greg.
It's the biggest on-field development, I think, of the first couple of days of training camp. He was emotional, especially for Michael Thomas. I mean, he's a guy who's like always fired up, but you could see what the day meant to him when he spoke to the media. He gave, I believe, Jeff Duncan a little grief, which I enjoyed too, about some, because he's been really reporting about the divide between Michael Thomas and the organization over the last couple of years. It's huge. They have such a huge gap between like what their best outcome is and their worst outcome, and Michael Thomas to me is sort of the embodiment of that. You could get a top 10 receiver out of Michael Thomas. Suddenly Landry's your 3 and Olave's your 2, and you're on fire. Or you might not get anything out of Michael Thomas, and that could be the type of season the Saints have. I think they could be anywhere from like 12 to 6 wins.
I think that's fair. I mean, you're in a division where, you're going to play the Falcons twice. They seem like a dead operation this season. The Panthers are iffy. I mean, that can inflate your win total. They're not scared of the Bucs. It's not just their offense, it's their defense too. I mean, I think Olave is someone who's gotten Calvin Ridley comparisons. Our friend Lance Zierlein compared him to Terry McLaurin. So a good route runner can come in and help them right away. I think he's a chance to be a big contributor. I think for me, it's like you don't have the Sean Payton factor. Michael Thomas or not, like, what does that mean for Jameis Winston? What does it mean for the entire – I think he gave them an extra 2 wins a year. So the Saints, to me, are a real X-factor type team right now.
All right, we talked about hold-ins. Here's some real holdouts. Jesse Bates, the safety of the Bengals, unsigned franchise tag, and he has not reported to training camp. There have been some – rumors about a potential trade there as well, but also Cincinnati's right in a Super Bowl window. You would think they will do everything to try to keep him on the field or get him on the field. And then also Orlando Brown, very important piece of what the Chiefs are doing. The left tackle has not reported to training camp in Kansas City, and Mike Garafolo reported earlier this week that he will not report for some time. So that is another situation to track.
If you're not going to show up for day one, you might as well skip that whole first 2.5 weeks where it's technically training camp, because it doesn't seem like that much fun. You either have to live in the dorms,
especially if you can get the money wiped away, the fines, which
you can
usually
show
happens.
up. It's like August 15th, 17th is around the window where they break from quote training camp. It might even be earlier, August 11th. I mean, you can show up a solid 3 or 4 weeks. Skip this part.
I'm with you. And Andy Reid kind of stuck it to Orlando Brown, saying we know that Joe Thuney can do this in a heartbeat if they need to move him to left tackle at some point. So they don't. I think their stance is you turned down what Mike Garafolo reported was a $91 million deal over 5 years. I don't know why he did, because I think it's a great organization to be at. You can be the left tackle for Patrick Mahomes, and now you're sitting there in a holdout situation.
He will be.
He'll be back. I know, but it's just
knows what his worth is. He just because you think he's worth $91 million.
I'm just saying
he believes he's worth $100.
It's a great situation for a left tackle in the NFL, if you're good, and he is good.
Well, I can't deny that. Who wouldn't want to play with future Hall of Famer Patrick Mahomes in front of one of the great fan bases in football?
Well, apparently Orlando Brown at the current time.
Let the man go through his business process, Mark. Speaking of the Bengals, Joe
Not
Burrow.
An adversary. I want
I
him
don't know
to
what
succeed.
you have against him, but I just felt like I had to say something there.
I feel like you're cooking that up out of thin air. That's fine.
Yeah, Mark's very much these guys all make too much money.
No,
it's a kid's game.
I don't think.
It's a kid's game. I'd be out there for $20.
Baseball players make too much money.
Joe Burrow also not involved with Cincinnati Bengals practice right now. He's going to miss a little bit of time. He's having his appendix removed. This is another, to me, a positive sign for Cincinnati, because the old Bengals, the appendix, this would have happened in week 6, and he'd be missing like 7 games or 3 games or something. But now that things are better in Cincinnati, knock on wood, it happens in mid-July. Everything's fine. Get it taken care of.
That was a professional take from going who's done this a long time. Because I looked at this story and was like, well, what could we possibly say about this?
I wrote non-issue.
You came up with one. The one I'm gonna come up with is, I like it in cases like this when someone gets their appendix out and it's like, oh, well, that's nothing. At least that's not a real injury. It's like, if I had to go get my appendix out and miss the next thing of work, that would bother me. That's significant in my life. So I feel for Joe Burrow. I hope he's healing well.
The only good thing, though, is when your appendix needs to be out.
Minor to you.
You're in like total physical infamy when you need it out. I looked it up, though, and it said the normal recovery time to typical human activities is 2 to 4 weeks. So he's doing something more than just walking around or climbing a ladder or mowing your lawn. He's going to be taking massive hits. So I wonder if we see him in the preseason.
No, I doubt we will. And I
don't think we would anyways.
And it really is fortunate, because obviously he won't be touched from now until September 11th or whenever the first game is. But it's a violent sport. I don't know if anybody's paying attention.
A news update.
Yeah. So if the timing worked out. Unfortunately for Chris Carson, his NFL career has come to an end after just 5 seasons. The Seahawks running back, who suffered a neck injury, required a surgical fusion, and that you hate to hear any type of surgery for a player. But when you hear the neck surgery, it always is touch and go at that point, and you hope that the player gets cleared and he can be healthy and safe. But this is the other outcome, where the player ends up retiring years, half a decade, maybe more than when he typically would be expected to retire. And unfortunately, Chris Carson has to walk away. It's just not safe to play with this type of issue. So tough, because Chris Carson, when he was healthy, was really a great running back.
He
for
was
Seattle.
so fun. When he first popped up, I remember Wes just loving his running style. How could you not? It was just like so aggressive. Unfortunately, it was the kind of running style where you're like, "Ooh, that guy might get hurt sometime playing that way." This was obviously just bad luck, but a couple seasons over 1,200 yards rushing. Made some big plays in the playoffs, I remember, against the Vikings where he broke a couple tackles, scored a long touchdown. Happy trails. That's too bad. There's another retirement in Seattle. Just popped up 10 minutes ago. KJ Wright is signing a one-day ceremonial contract and is officially retiring as a member of the Seahawks.
So Geno Smith and Drew Lock and Rashad Penny as the starting running.
They've got Kenneth Walker.
Kenneth Walker, their second-round pick. So that's a great duo. I think they
Penny,
saw.
what has Penny done other than that stretch last year to show you that he could be counted on?
Well,
Fair, but
that's
that
a great
stretch was
question
amazing.
for the audience. We want to see if it's that version going forward. Look out.
And DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett. I mean, they have some high-level players. That's a nice duo if Penny's healthy.
I love Metcalf and Lockett.
And they're going to need to run the ball like 640 times a game if Drew Lock or Geno Smith are your quarterback. Sorry, Greg. I know you're running that fan club along with 12 others.
It's all managed expectations.
That was very rose. Both of you were very rosy just now. I was thinking about that, behind the offensive line and like, that's rough. But you guys are higher on the backfield, and maybe the rookie is a big time.
We were there for a big Rashad Penny game in person, Dan, against the Rams.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
that's right.
For 5 games, he was like Derrick Henry, busting open like 70-yard runs every fourth quarter.
What about the multiple years before that?
Well, yeah, there was 4 of those, 3 of those.
We'll consider the entire sample size.
All right, and what else do we have here?
KJ Wright, by the way. I once wrote a whole feature on NFL.com about the KJ Wright-Wagner duo. They were sort of after they got to the Super Bowl. That was the core of their team. He was a hell of a linebacker whose career kind of fell off a cliff quickly, but was great when he was great.
And finally, this always messes with my head. We have a name change, especially when it's a prominent player. Darius Leonard has made it be known, the All-Pro Colts linebacker, that he now wants to go by the name that many of his family and friends call him. It's his middle name. Darius Leonard, going forward, is now Shaquille Leonard. Shaq Leonard, I like, but I don't know if he goes by Shaq.
I think it's Shaquille, really.
Shaquille Leonard, from this point forward, respect it or else.
You wanted to throw this one in there. In fairness, the first thing he said about it was like, "Oh, no hard feelings. You can call me Darius. I know it's hard to get used to it."
Do not do that.
He's like, "I know it's hard to get used to, but I've been going by Shaquille with everyone I love forever. I feel more comfortable." I like it. I think there is a marked difference. Mark disagreed. He likes Darius Leonard as a name better. To me, Shaquille Leonard sounds like a Hall of Famer. Darius Leonard was solid.
You're not going to honor the Shaquille switch?
No, I want him to do what he wants to do. It's just that I got to know him a certain way, and then suddenly he changes his name, and he goes to the middle name, which is interesting. I guess we could all make that choice at some point.
We should do an episode.
What are the middle
names? My middle name is my father's name, so Keith Hanzus, which would be confusing to the listeners who've listened for a long time.
Also confusing if any of your family members listened, because you kind of sound like Keith Hanzus.
Does he have like a Keith Hanzus at gmail.com?
Danny, I'm hosting the podcast now.
That would
be great.
We need an off-season episode where you speak in that voice the entire episode.
What is your middle name, Greg?
It's like, hey, I can't do a Keith Hanzus, I don't think.
My
middle name is Michael. My middle name is Michael.
Jan.
Michael Rosenthal.
Mine's Edward, after my father, who is also named Edward.
Ed Sessler.
Or Ed, but I don't call myself Mark Ed Sessler. No.
It's like, yeah, Greg, Penny was great at the end of the last year, but look at the rest of his career. Barely healthy at all.
I don't know. Well, you tried. Me and my dad should switch roles for a summer, where he hosts the podcast for the summer, and then I just work outside in the yard for the entire summer, like 7 hours a day.
You go to like a Billy Joel concert with your mom?
You're kind of taking
go to a
that
Chicago
role.
concert. Mow the lawn twice a week. Just be working constantly outside to the point where I can't even figure out what my dad's doing at this point. But he's really he's an outdoor warrior.
He's mowing the lawn twice a week. That feels very
he likes it.
High octane.
I feel like you're on that path, though. You're very much you like doing the yard stuff and the outdoor, like being a real homeowner.
I do. I enjoy it. I enjoy being a homeowner.
You were
and
telling
the work
us that
goes into it.
you know your neighbors, that you're feeding one of your neighbors or 2 frogs.
It's a zoo basically over there. I'm feeding 2 giant dogs, a stray cat that they feed, and 2 frogs.
Who's taking the dogs
in a
out? Are you
terrarium.
doing that too?
I love dogs. That's not a problem.
I get it, but it's a lot of work.
The cat is a little touch and go because cats, cats. It's like, come on.
What is the
Come
frog?
back to me a little bit.
What's the diet for the frog?
Cats
is it
are
bugs
easy
or
to take care of if you're
crickets?
a neighbor, though. Dogs are like, people get paid for that. I'm not saying I would ask for payment, but
Right.
I would expect a nice thank you gift.
All right. That is what's happening in the news. What do you guys think? I'm an animal?
No comment.
All right, let's take a break and then a quick game with Gravedigger, and then we're out. All right, welcome back. Let's do something fun here. Gravedigger, how are you doing, buddy?
Pretty well, thanks for asking.
What?
Pretty well.
What do you use? Wait a second. Okay, how you doing, Gravedigger?
I'm doing well, thanks for asking.
Oh, there's the Gravedigger cam again.
Our viewers on YouTube can enjoy a great look of Graver, Christy, Randy.
I can't believe Sean Kelly hasn't leaned into
Sean,
the
who
shot
loves
yet.
publicity, there he is.
There
John,
he is.
John is
It's
very
like, what
into
is taking so
self-publicity.
long for Kelly to get in the shot?
We should mention, that we are on YouTube. If you prefer that,
I believe we have mentioned that.
I'm just saying I don't like it. I don't like it.
Yeah, you've often been down on the YouTube.
Well, here's
concept,
why.
So.
Well, if we were
Greg's
live,
like, the internet is not the future.
no, if we're live on YouTube, then it's like a whole thing. I don't like because we're the biggest NFL only podcast out there. You don't want to puff your chest out too much, but just in terms of audience, not fantasy. It's big numbers. But on YouTube, there's not big numbers, so that just annoys me. And it's like either we should
this is
do
the
it
type of
all the
promotion
way.
that will help. I
Yeah,
would
I'm
imagine.
saying either we do it or not.
I think it's great if you want to see the visual.
Real P.T. Barnum there.
Yeah. If you want to see what the show looks like and see behind the glass and meet the whole crew, I see Randy Chavez Ravine back there. I see he didn't even bother looking up because he's like, I'm busy. I'm a pro. Let's get into it. Gravedigger, you pulled up some quotes that have popped up over the last 24 hours or so. Do you just want to set them up, tee them up, and play them, and then we'll react to them? Is that what we're doing here?
Yeah, I think that works. Or maybe some of them
cool.
are kind of funny. Some of them maybe like, do you buy what they're saying? But let's start here. This is Bill Belichick asked if it will be a problem that they haven't named an offensive coordinator.
The Patriots, yeah.
I'm the head coach. Ultimately, I'm responsible for everything, so just leave it at that. That's what it is. We're not really big on titles and all that, so I think everybody, it's important that we all work together and create a good final product. And so that's what we're going to try to do. That's what we've always done.
Final product.
Stephen, it's such a pull string doll answer that I respect it. Final product.
Do you want to know what's going on here? Matt Patricia is going to be the OC, but if
they don't want to put it out there like that.
If they put the title on him, he doesn't get paid by the Lions. I think they're just allowing him to get double.
Well, he was calling the plays at practice, according to reporters on Wednesday, Matt Patricia. But this is not new. It is a way to avoid paying people their full value, potentially. But when Josh McDaniels took over for Charlie Weiss, he was not named offensive coordinator. When Brian Flores took over, I believe it was for Dean Pease, it took him a solid 2 years of him actually being the coordinator to get the title. So they've done this in the past. And when he says we're not really into titles, he should say, I'm not into titles.
Right.
I bet they would be fine with the
other
titles.
people are.
And also, let's not bury the lead. The bigger question is not like that they don't have the official labels. It's that Matt Patricia and Joe Judge have vital roles on this coaching staff. It is another great test of Belichick's reach and ability to lead a team, which is purely.
It would be one thing if Judge is the special teams coach and Patricia's helping as a defensive assistant. It's different that they're in charge of Mac Jones's future.
I think that is like just assume that's going to work out.
But
that often does not.
Does that mean that at the end of the day, though, it's actually Bill Belichick that's directly responsible for the development? And if that's the case,
true.
Like Belichick is in his early 70s now, very late 60s. He's just. I mean, the guy he's different. I guess that's all I'll say about it. I respect it. I begrudgingly respect Belichick's greatness.
He turned 70 in April.
All right. What else do you have?
All right. Jerry Jones opened training camp with a press conference, and before anyone could even ask him a question, he decided to say this.
Probably the one that I have the most sensitivity about, and that is Mike and him coaching.
Mac.
And I want to be real clear. He wouldn't be sitting here today if I didn't think he was the man to lead this team to a Super Bowl. He would not be, and I have choices.
That's my favorite part of that. I have choices.
Yeah, there's a lot of pushback. Even Jane pushed back a little bit as the person covering the Cowboys for NFL Network. Like, this narrative about Mike McCarthy and Sean Payton, and let's let this play out. Sure, that's fine. You tell me you love Mike McCarthy, you believe in him. But it doesn't change the fact that that is a very real plot line entering this season.
Right, and that most coaches would not be sitting next to the owner while they're speaking about them just like this as the opening press conference of the season kicks off. That says a lot.
Yeah, her point was that Peyton would not be comfortable in a Cowboys environment where he doesn't have autonomy and power. I'm not sure that couldn't change a little bit if they wanted to finally make that work.
I do love that I've got options, though, because, of course, every NFL owner has choices. But Jerry was saying, I'm Jerry effing Jones.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got more choices than those other guys.
Anything can happen in the Jerry zone, and that's what's playing out every time he speaks.
You get relegated to such a beta sitting there next to Jerry Jones as the head coach where you're just sort of like hands folded, not able to say anything.
Right. That's part of the price you pay. What else?
All right, this is Colts GM Chris Ballard.
Uh-oh. What's your favorite type of frog?
On why they haven't signed a notable wide receiver yet.
Easy for me to go sign a name for y'all. It would be y'all would write these beautiful stories, and then when that guy didn't play well, the flip would be incredible. Like, it would be incredible. Y'all won't get called on it. I will. Y'all won't get called on it, though. So have some patience. Let us work through it.
So you're not signing a wide receiver to avoid eventual critique.
I like that because he is right about that. There were points last season, just to use the Colts as an example, where the local media had said the season was over or so at 2-4. And then there was points last season when the local media was thinking this team might make the Super Bowl. And then everyone knows what happened. But the media ended up really not taking any grief for being so far off. I think it was interesting, though, that Matt Ryan didn't want Julio Jones on his team. And that is absolutely how I'm reading this situation, knowing a little bit of behind-the-scenes stuff between Matt Ryan and Julio.
They were not best of friends.
I think if Matt Ryan was like, man, I would do anything to have Julio Jones, I think they would have found room for him.
Probably.
Or he'd want Julio Jones of 4 years ago.
Do you think we're going to do our hot butt rankings of head coaches on the hot seat probably next month? I wonder, Jim Irsay is a very passionate owner. He's very emotional. We saw how he took the collapse against the Jaguars in Week 18 last year almost personally on a biblical level. I wonder if Reich and Ballard are feeling a little heat this season, Well,
so we had Zach Kiefer on when you were on the East Coast.
Wait, what?
Our friend Zach Kiefer.
You did the show?
We did a show without you.
What?
And it was very informative. And we asked him that, and he said that they're definitely, it's real because the heat should be there. But I think the thing is, if you're Irsay, you have to say, what better coach you're going to get? What better GM? Because I think Ballard's a very good one. And then on top of it, they had to navigate the retirement of Andrew Luck, which I think was super thorny, and it's been difficult since. But you can't just they are floating
Have they
around.
navigated it?
I think they've done fairly well. I think part of the critique is what they
won 10. They won 10 with Luck. They won 10 with Luck. I kind of forgot that Reich Luck season
Ages
where
ago.
Luck was really great. And then 7 wins, 11 wins, 9 wins. I think it's unfair, but I absolutely think if they didn't make the playoffs, they'd be on the hot seat, and Reich would probably lose his job, even if it was.
I don't know. I think if you give up Frank Reich, he has another job in 4 seconds.
Agreed. But that doesn't mean you wouldn't make the move if you didn't think he was the guy, though. Just because somebody else would value him.
If they didn't make the playoffs this year, I think they would make changes.
To do a couple more.
Let's do more. Let's skip down a couple then. Here's Matt Rule on.
Look at the Graver cam. Now you got Sean Kelly's now he's looking directly at the camera like a psychopath.
Sean, do you have any work to do?
Go ahead.
Here's Matt Rule on naming a starting quarterback for the Panthers.
Oh, boy.
To me, my job is not to pick the starting quarterback. The players will do that with the way that they play.
What?
My job is to make sure that we have really good players in the room, which we now, which we do in that room, and make sure that they have opportunities. And so, it'll be a fun ride. And when we know, we know.
I like Matt Rule. He's a Jersey guy. He's cool. What the hell is he talking about?
He's pretty loose, just the way he talks.
Of course he picks. Of course he's going to pick who the quarterback is.
I identify with that. I definitely sometimes just say things, and it's like, well, I didn't really mean it in that way.
Yes, you do.
And I think that's what he just did.
I think he's saying that they'll
Right?
decide with their own play.
Like, I get it, but it's 100% his job. It's one of the most important parts of his job right now.
I don't think is he technically saying I have nothing to do with the process. If they both played equally well, Sam Darnold and Baker Mayfield, I would have no input. I don't think that's what he's implying.
They'll go out on the field week 1 holding hands against the Browns.
Can't be worse than last year.
Anything else? One more?
One more, and then one quick fun one.
Okay.
So one more real one. Kyle Shanahan on Trey Lance, Jimmy Garoppolo, moving on, and trying to trade Jimmy G.
I like this seg.
But we have moved on to Trey. We're starting camp out this way. We think Jimmy would have been traded if the surgery didn't happen, and it did. He needed to do it, so there's no ill will there at all. But you also can't just give one of the better quarterbacks in the league, just make him available for no reason to the whole world. So, and the good thing is you can have those conversations with Jimmy, and he understands that too.
This is Kyle Shanahan crying uncle to the media, and he's like, please just stop asking me about Jimmy Garoppolo in the 2022 season. He's not involved. I can't be any more clear. Please just stop asking me about it.
I mean, that's a pretty big change, though, that it's just like we're rolling with Trey. And I think the only reason
What's the change? I'm sorry. What?
They never said that before. They were
what's
trying
the actual change other than now he's coming out and saying
It's the acknowledging of it.
It's just actually say you're right.
We all
I
knew
think he
that.
would have said that in March or February if they weren't trying to hold on to some mythical leverage when it came to Jimmy G. And then Kyle Shanahan's funny because he was like, hey, look, there's no ill will about him getting the surgery. And it's just one of those comments where it's like, you should just say less. Because it would have never occurred to me that there would have been ill will. And now I absolutely think they were frustrated by the timing of Jimmy G's surgery, which was early March after they had already put it out there that he was available. And I was like, oh, they probably weren't thrilled about that, even though it made sense for Jimmy G.
Well, legitimately kind of blew up their plans because now they're stuck trading a quarterback that maybe nobody wants. And I think they're going to hold on to him, it sounds like. They're not going to cut him.
I like the clarity. That part I don't believe. He did say that later, like, we're not going to cut Jimmy G. They are lying. If for some reason they couldn't get any trade offer for him, they are not going to keep him for $24 million.
You have to get rid of him before August 30th because his $24 million base salary becomes guaranteed if they don't.
They're lying about that.
To get the Debo deal done, which they sound confident that they can, this is a huge part of that.
Another Holden.
All right, that was the real story. Now what's
By the way,
fake
one thing you've got to watch
Fake
John
one.
Lynch's body language during that press conference. Go back. It's one of the most uncomfortable. I don't know what's going on there.
What
but
are
I
you
don't-
reading into
I,
it?
he does the thing where he's like scratches his hair, where you tell his hair's not itchy. He does the thing where he like does this with his nose, and like he looks like he's fidgeting and sort of annoyed at what Kyle Shanahan is saying a little bit too much here and there.
Right.
And Lynch does not seem to like that. It's been dramatic, and I just wonder if those two are really always on the same page.
Okay. It's been obviously a stressful situation for the pair.
Finally, Aaron Rodgers was asked if it was good having Alan Lazard back after missing all offseason, and this is his response.
I mean, it's always tough going from Hall of Famer to Hall of Famer.
I love it.
That's good.
You know, the Con Air entrance for Aaron Rodgers, and then I don't know. He obviously was annoying with the vaccine stuff and some of the comments he makes, but like you said, Greg, we'll miss him when he's gone.
Right, and
He's entertaining to me.
I'm not even the big fan of the Con Air thing. Like, to me, it sort of seems corny and tried too hard, but I will miss it all because it's a show. Like, he had this line ready, and some people are like, "Ooh, burn!" It's like, calm down. He's having some fun with his friend Devontae Adams. He's just making a joke. Let's let
He's been
people
more
make
enjoyable
jokes.
this offseason or in recent days than in the last couple of years. But I also think when he stops playing, he won't be gone. He's not going to vanish like Andrew Luck into the ether.
He tried to become the Jeopardy host, which is
Right,
like the
I
most
think
popular game
there's
show in
another chapter
America.
here
So
with
he
Andrew
wants.
Luck
He is not somebody he's not pulling out Andrew Luck.
No.
Put it that way. He's not growing the bushy beard and disappearing for 5 years. All right, good stuff. Good job. I like that. It was a good seg. That's good producer work by Gravedigger.
Thanks.
So let's
Got you on camera. That's part
His
of it.
idea, yeah.
Yeah, his execution of it was flawless, and he put in the work, and it made the show better. So We appreciate you.
It's unclear what Sean Kelly is doing, though, professionally behind back.
He's supporting him. Yeah, see, 2 thumbs up. Okay. All right, before we go, there is one more news item that everyone needs to know about. And it's a figure that has a special place in the hearts of this show. We've been tracking him since his college prospect days. And this gentleman just signed a contract with the San Francisco 49ers. Maybe that's why John Lynch was scratching his head. He's thinking about this situation. He's got all the tools, still just 27 years old. He's hoping to finally break through in the NFL. And let's end today's show by singing literally the praises of a man that we're all rooting for. Kim Diche, Kim Diche, Kim Diche, why you fall out that window? You fell down the draft board and right out of their minds. First hit was the Cards, then the Dolphins, then Seattle Seahawks, now the Niners. Kim Diche, Kim Diche, Kim Diche, more than a broken glass pile. Kim Diche, Kim Diche, Kim Diche, time to convince Kyle.
Absolutely worth delaying the show for 25 minutes. Absolutely.
Not unlike Aaron Rodgers, you may have another chapter after this show wraps.